this is Colin Thompson. In today's Corona Coaches video, we take a step away from our typical interview with a life coach, and we're going to be having a conversation with a very close friend of mine here in Shanghai, China. My friend Hymn has a very unique story that when he told me, I mentioned he must share it with the audience because there are several lessons to be learned. Over the last 9 to 10 weeks, Hymn has been under self-quarantine, mandatory quarantine, 5 different times. And each of those times were 2 weeks minimum. He's actually has about, I think, 3 or 4 more days to go on his last quarantine. And he tells us of his journey from Shanghai, China to Hong Kong, to Shanghai, to Japan, and back to Shanghai. The important part here is how in each leg of his journey, before he had to follow a mandatory quarantine, he self-quarantined each time on his own. The reason being, he recognized that people were not following the proper guidelines, which may have put him at risk, and he wanted to make sure that he's not putting anybody else at risk. So I know globally, people now are caught in the middle as to whether or not to follow the guidelines put forth by their cities. So I hope this video provides a good example, proves to be a good example of why you want to follow the guidelines, even though they may bring some discomfort to you. We want to do everything we can to avoid having a mandatory quarantine. Mandatory quarantine means you literally cannot leave your house. So enjoy the video, and I hope you take some good lessons away. So Hymn, look, you just told me a great story about your 5 quarantines. I want you to, 5 quarantines in 9 weeks, right? So I want you to share that story, and just to give some context, you are now back where I am in Shanghai, China. However, you are still under quarantine. You have, what, 4 more days?
Yeah, 3 days maybe.
three more days. So what we want to hear is take us back from your first quarantine all the way through to the fifth quarantine. And let me say this, throughout this time, did you ever have the virus?
No. Or maybe I had, and it was so mild that I didn't.
Yeah, maybe the quarantine helped, right? Okay, so and please take a moment to introduce yourself.
Oh, yes, hello. I'm Hymn, and I'm living in Shanghai, but my parents are from Hong Kong, and I've lived in Shanghai for maybe the past 2-3 years. And yeah, I'm a freelancer.
No, don't forget about your Belgian side.
The what?
Your Belgian side. Belgium. You're from Belgium, right?
No, from Holland.
Holland, excuse me. Holland, excuse me.
Born and grew up in Holland, and yeah, basically, if I tell that to anybody, nobody will believe me because I don't.
It's on tape now. It's on tape now.
Because yeah, my parents are from Hong Kong. That's why. So basically, I just tell maybe most of the people I'm from Hong Kong, and then they will. Oh yeah, I guess.
Yeah, you got that.
Yeah, sounds like it. Yeah, so basically, what happened in my first quarantine was that happened when the Wuhan, the virus breakout happened, and that was in January.
About 20th?
It was end of January, right?
Yeah.
And then I was staying at my like current wife. Actually, I was planning to get married, and it wasn't ready yet, and I had to kind of like I'm missing some documents in Hong Kong. So anyway, and that breakout just happened, and I was still at my how to say that, girlfriend's place, and then I was
fiance.
Oh right, fiance, that's the word. Fiance's place, and so when
that's in Shanghai, right? Shanghai.
Yeah, in Shanghai. Okay. In Shanghai. So when that broke out, we kind of watched the TV, and I couldn't get out. I saw there's too many people like scared, and like it's all these gloomy things on the news. So I thought better stay at home. And also because her parents were also living together, so their suggestion is also not going out. So
don't go outside.
We wouldn't risk to make them worry even more about us. So we just stayed inside during the whole, like I guess 10 days or 10 to something like that. And then because I booked my tickets, so I need to leave, and I need to go to Hong Kong, and I packed my stuff, and then I wear double masks
A question for you: in those 10 days in Shanghai, did one of you go out for food and things like that, or nobody went out?
Sorry, what did you say?
Those 10 days in Shanghai, did anybody go out for food?
Yeah, of course. I mean, people at that time wasn't still so serious yet, but it's like people getting to understand. Okay, wow, it's so infectious, and people beginning to learn about this virus. But
Right.
in the beginning, people was just like wear mask and then still go to crowded places, buy stuff they need. So I at that time, when I need to leave Shanghai, I kind of like was very careful, and I kind of like wear double masks and like
double mask. And you're going to Hong Kong because you had to get paperwork for your wedding, for your marriage.
Yes, exactly, because I need to get the documents for the wedding. That's supposed to because I'm going to marry in Shanghai. That's what I wanted, and so once I'm back in Hong Kong, there was like no people checking my temperature, and it's just like really casual. So I was basically, I knew that because I'm from I came from mainland China, and I know that Hong Kong people would kind of don't want to meet, kind of like, yeah, you might have this virus kind of thing. And then I isolate myself, I just told everybody, yeah, I know the situation, and let's see if we can meet after the 14 days. And
this is your second sort of isolation. The first isolation in Shanghai when it first came down, you guys went out only when needed for food. Now you go to Hong Kong and you recognize Hong Kong's not really taking no precautions. You want to quarantine self quarantine yourself for 14 days.
Yes, and Hong Kong is also getting more serious at the time, just like right before it, and then so during Hong Kong, the days I still need to eat, right, and I need to go out, so I kind of like also taking mask, but Hong Kong is a good thing. It's like everybody already wearing masks,
right.
But I was also trying to looking for masks to buy, but it basically was too difficult, and it was no way possible unless you can pay for very expensive, like the actually at the end I paid very expensive for some N95 masks, and it was around 55 Hong Kong dollar per each, but this is actually already but it's actually
that's like $8 per mask.
Well, originally it's maybe 10 times or 20 times cheaper.
Wow.
But anyway, life is important, right?
Yes, it is, my friend.
So that's why I still have buy some, and then for this, going back to Shanghai, I know I need to also give some to my fiance's family as well. So, but in Hong Kong, what I found is like, I think that there are still protests happening, and all these noises and telling the gates should be closed.
Right.
They emphasize we should close the gates between Hong Kong and Shenzhen, and all these to block all these any virus that can come in. So at that time, I kind of know that I need to get out as early as possible again, because before they close the gates, I need to get out.
Get out back to Shanghai. It's funny because we were doing the opposite thing. I think I told you we were supposed to go to Hong Kong, and we decided we're not going to go to Hong Kong because we're scared. We go to Hong Kong, we can't get back to Shanghai. So while you were worried about not being able to get out of Hong Kong, we were concerned about the same thing. Yeah.
So anyway, and then I went on to fly back to Shanghai.
And now I think we're mid February, early February. Mid February.
I think it was maybe mid February.
Yeah,
I guess so. And then I kind of like, when I traveled back to Shanghai, there was like very, like it never happened to me. It's like nobody on the like no one on the airplane, or like totally empty streets. It's like like a doom scene kind of.
Yeah, yeah. Very strange, right?
Yeah,
Very
yeah,
strange.
it's very strange. And also in the airport, like just maybe a few people and checking your temperature, and that's it. So I felt it's kind of pretty relaxed actually. Nobody, because I was pretty worried about this. The airports are quite of like dangerous zone, right? But seemingly there was not so many people. I felt kind of safe.
Yeah, one thing I'd say that's different between Europe, South America, North America, and China. In China, when the government recommends that you stay inside and don't travel, that's it. People stay inside and people don't travel. That's it.
Yeah. So anyway, I had my reasons to go back. So,
You get married.
yeah, and then I came back to Shanghai, and I got my documents. Yes,
Right.
I finally got my documents, and then so once I step off the plane, I saw there's a lot of checkings already. So it's like, whoa, it's very different than before, and so I went back home. They didn't ask like, okay, so did you got any like they didn't check very thoroughly, and then I just went on and I went home, and the next day, and then I found out already when going back home, I saw like empty streets, and also on the front door of the gates of my small community where I live, there's already like a total isolation and self-control, like communities or something. So I know that's kind of like serious already, but I was coming back at night, so nobody knows that I'm coming back. And then the next day, like people knocking on my door, it's like really really loud. Like I didn't understand why they were, because I didn't know that why people would know I'm back. But anyway, they just knock on my door, and then they say, hey, you didn't register, right? Did you? So when you come back, you should register yourself. And so they put me on the list, like I have to isolate myself for 14 days. That was kind of advice at the time. I was still free, but they kind of tell me, hey, you better not to go out, and these 14 days don't do anything stupid or things like that.
And let me add context here, right? So what took place was, while you were gone in Hong Kong, Shanghai started to shut down, but they were shutting down from keeping the virus from coming into Shanghai and into different communities. So overnight, coming into a community, we had to get a little card that told us, that said we live here.
Oh yeah.
Now, because they know who we are, we don't always need the card, but they also take a temperature. If you have a temperature that reads high, they write down your information, you're going to get a knock on your door. What they were doing, they're making sure that they're keeping the community safe. So anybody who came in who was not a resident, they can't come in, right? They will not let you in. And if you came back and you traveled, and the guards at the front gate, they know if you traveled or not, right? They know. And if you come back and you've been traveling and you make it through them, you're going to get a knock on the door just like you got. Now, at the time, people thought, especially foreigners thought that was just, how dare you, right? But it kept people safe, right? It was intrusive, but it kept people safe. What are your thoughts?
I think it's after all this quarantining and these measurements, I think China did a pretty good job. I have to admit. I'm also a Hong Konger, but I think China did a good job on this, because you have to be this strict to really control the virus. The virus is super contagious. So I think Europe at the moment, America has a huge problem with people disobeying or kind of like neglecting
having their rights,
seriousness, right, of this thing. So as my parents are and my family are also living in Holland now, so I'm kind of worried about them. It's like they might, because they are talking about something like what is it called? Collective immunity. Collective immunity is kind of
so when people get it, then at some point it'll be. I don't know about that, but let's go back to the quarantine. So now you have your third quarantine, and this one is the first one that is have more oversight, meaning people are watching you now. Your first two, you did it yourself, right?
Yeah.
Now the
Yeah.
third one, you have more pressure to quarantine yourself.
Yeah. I kind of like had to stay at home, and but you know, I still have to buy food, right? So I know the gates when there are no people, and I will sneak out to buy some things I need. Yeah, but basically, most of the time I just stay at home, yeah, for a few days, and I need to buy some, and I will go out.
Now, are you married? Did you get married at that point, or?
No, I got married after my. Oh, that's another funny story. So I planned my before for the marriage in Shanghai. You have to have a photo, right? The
Right.
photo of the two together. So we found a place to shoot that photo in Shanghai, and I planned that the 15th day that I arrived Shanghai. The 15th.
The day right after.
Yeah, the day that I
right
can
after, right.
finally go out, right?
Oh.
So okay, on the day that I'm finally free, I can go out to that place. So that's the small neighborhood. It's pretty far actually, and then we travel kind of like 1.5 hours or something, and so it's pretty far. So we went there, and then finally, it's the only place in Shanghai that's still like, because photo shooting is kind of, and you know, it's like you have to put off masks, so it's kind of like a regulated industry. So yeah, that's the only place we could shoot photos. So we went there, and then the neighborhood said, okay, you have to scan this QR code. So this QR code represents where did you go in the last 14 days. And I said, yeah, it's all right, and you know, it's, I should be okay. And then my fiance at that time, her phone was out of battery, and then we were standing there like, I'm trying to register the QR code, and she is trying to do this and that, and then there was like a man coming far from coming here, and I say, hey, what are you guys doing so long here? And then this guy is kind of the more senior guy. Okay. And he said, hey, you know, have you read this sign on this wall? This paper on the wall says, in this neighborhood, apart from 14 days, you have to plus 5 days. And
really?
Plus 5 more days that you, if you're like these 14 plus 5, this is for certain districts, right. Which means for certain districts in Shanghai, there's like more
cases,
more strict.
Yeah.
And then because my flight was not from Hong Kong, I flew from like Shenzhen, and Shenzhen they consider as a high risk. Yes, and that time I kind of like, oh, that's that, and I couldn't, and then we didn't shoot at that day. We stayed there for like almost 1 hour to discuss and negotiate with them, and they say no problem, sorry, we can let you in. Okay. Even the responsible person from the photo shoot also came, and then it didn't work. Yeah,
they were very strict, which I think in this case is a good thing. But walk us through how you went from, so now you finish your third quarantine, and now you're getting married, and you're going to Japan with your wife or fiance and her family.
Yeah, so we finally found another friend who could take a photo for us. It's like a really private friend, and who can take a photo for us. So I got married, and then it's funny also, married and having all these masks.
So question for you, when you got married, why go in Shanghai? Why then go to Japan during all this virus stuff?
Oh yeah, there's another reason, because my wife now, current wife, is now has her apartment rent is over. We have to like relocate, so we have to find a new place and move all our stuff. So that was the reason. One of the reasons.
She's in Japan.
No, she was still in Shanghai. Together, we were in Shanghai.
Okay.
That's why we could get married. And then also another reason was we want to pick up our like customized ring. So it's a ring that we made in Japan.
Okay. You have the ring on?
Yeah, the ring. We haven't. Because how to say, the ceremony was supposed to be happen on May, and now it's going to be.
Okay, the ceremony.
Yeah, because of this virus. So we don't know when yet, but it's maybe this year.
Let me give you the first bit of marriage advice, okay?
Yeah.
Never call your wife your current wife. Okay? Just say my wife, okay? That's the first marriage advice. Okay, so now you guys you're in Japan to see about the ring with your wife and her family, and you go through another quarantine.
Yeah, no. The funny thing is about in Japan, we were thinking that Japan is also really strict and really, but they weren't, and it was just really usual. I mean, people were just like still going to work, and
Yeah.
so in Japan.
I saw those reports, and Japan got hit kind of hard. I saw those reports very early on because now we're at, I want to say early March, right?
Yeah.
And I know Japan was very relaxed in having people wear masks, social distancing, a lot like some other countries are right now. So I noticed that as well.
Yeah, so the Japan was, which is good about Japan is like all people are already, before the pandemic, they already wear masks as their daily habits.
Yeah.
Also, there's like a lots of like liquids washing sanitizers around every shop. So that's a good thing about Japan. They already have all these things prepared, or like almost like so. So during my stay in Japan, I also tried to isolate myself for at least for 14 days. I'm not trying to get immediately find my friends, and it's like I know that people would still have some like hold on.
Yeah, that was so this fourth sort of self quarantine, and we got to speed up here because we got to get to the end.
Yeah.
This was you and your wife and her family, correct?
No, it's only my wife and me.
Okay, so you both self quarantined.
Yeah. So it was we hired an Airbnb. We stayed there, and then we just basically we stayed there for the period of quarantine, and then after that quarantine, and then we kind of went out and meet people again, and we found out very shocking. It's like, it's so usual. Everybody's still as it is,
Right. Very. I imagine it was a very, very big difference in China, Japan, not in culture, but it's in how serious people are taking the outbreak. And we know if the government sets that tone, people will listen. So while you were in Japan, was the government being aggressive, or were they being a little relaxed?
Yeah. What do you mean? Are they relaxed or?
In Japan, when you were in Japan, was the government really trying to say, "Hey, this virus is very serious. Take precautions," or they just?
No, I mean, after I talking some Japanese friends as well, there's like some conspiracy as well that Japanese know that it's not really that simple.
Don't go into conspiracy, okay? don't go there.
Anyway, so yeah, some of my friends know that Japanese are trying to hide the real numbers, because of the Olympics. They want to have it happen anyway, so they don't want to affect it.
Okay.
But recently.
Go ahead.
Recently, it got canceled, so they are now.
Well, not canceled, delayed.
Well, delayed next year, right?
But I want to fast forward to what I call the real quarantine now, right? Because you came back to Shanghai during the phase where China numbers started coming down.
Yeah.
And China stopped looking inwards and started saying, "Hey, our body is okay now." Right? Inside our house is okay. We must now monitor things coming into our body or coming into our house. So they really put pressure on those international travelers. International meaning everybody who's coming from somewhere outside of China. And if I'm correct, the regulation was, which has been changing almost on a daily basis, but now it's every foreigner who comes in must be quarantined, right? Either at home or in a hotel, which you pay for yourself. As a matter of fact, you can't even fly to Beijing internationally. You get routed to Shanghai now. So take us through when you arrived back to Shanghai and to where you are now on day 10.
So it took me 30 hours to get back home from door to door.
But usually, okay, 30 hours. Usually it takes you how long?
Well, usually it takes 6 to 8 hours.
Right.
Yeah. And then, so what happened? So I flew from Tokyo to Shanghai, and after I arrived Shanghai, first of all, in the plane there was like everybody wearing masks, and some people already even in this whole cloth, right? Of this,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, it's like some sort of doctors.
Yeah.
I don't know what they are, but anyway. So we were back, and then so when in the plane, we waited for 3 hours, just in the plane. After we landed, we waited for 3 hours. And then they were saying, we are checking every plane that are coming in, and then your plane is number 4. So during the time, we were just some people got frustrated, like what happened, and anyway, we had waited for 3 hours in the plane and just nothing to do there. And then after we finally got off the plane, so some people came in, some from the medics or some with masks and with costumes come in and
kind of scary. Kind of scary.
Yeah, that was scary, and but they didn't check each one of us. It's like they were just discussing with some staff of the airplane stewards, and then they just basically, and then they got off, and then they let us in. So after I got in, they're like gates after gates after gates of checking with you, like, well, what's your temperature? Where are you from? And also we had to fill in a form, a health declaration form, which we have to prove that where we went in the last 14 days. And so that form is kind of very important. It's the one that decides whether you got like hotel quarantine or a home quarantine kind of.
Right. And here I got to jump in because we're running out of time, but I know on that form, a lot of people tried to put a different country down to act as if they came from somewhere safe, and they got caught. And you don't want to misrepresent where you're coming from on that. I know you went through the test, and the test itself took about 5, 6, 7, 8 hours to do. But I want to fast forward to what it's like now being on what I call the real quarantine, where in the other 4 scenarios you could leave. Can you leave now?
No, they have put a alarm, like a detector at my door. So whenever I open the door, they kind of know. Right. Oh, you just opened your door. So in these last 12 days, they have came twice to check my temperature, and they basically gave me a needle, like a temperature needle, to check my own temperature, and then we will have to report that on WeChat every day. Right. Twice. So, but I just report once.
Hey, look, don't play around. I know some other foreigners who came back, and they're also, luckily, they're on home quarantine, and they said that every morning they come and take their trash. And one day they said, well, our IE came, we gave our IE the trash. They said, yeah, IE shouldn't be coming inside, and she shouldn't be taking the trash. So the IE now is under home quarantine at her home and her family as well. But they couldn't leave. All the food and everything is brought to them on a daily basis if they order anything. They have tape on the door, so if that tape is broken, like a freshness seal, right? If that seal is broken, they know they've been out. Since then, they've installed alarms also. But the alarming thing is, they did make a mistake and they left one time. And they knew within 2 minutes they left. They came back with police, right? Giving them one warning, right? So I know this quarantine is happening for foreigners returning. This is serious. This is not the other form, the self-imposed. This is that mandatory. Don't you try it, right? Wait your 14 days. But I know that this is much more serious, and I think it's effective.
Yeah, I think it's necessary. I mean, I would like to collaborate on this. I mean,
I like
hesitation. It's
necessary.
Yeah. But another thing I want to also say is, like, once they found out that I'm Dutch, they say, oh, so you are using your Dutch passport. So are you Dutch? So are you coming from Holland as well? So once they know that you're a foreigner, I think you also feel so really clearly. It's like Chinese are very, very kind of scared of at the moment. It's like they think like, oh, you must be from Europe or something, and then they will try to stay away from you.
Yeah,
So
well, let me
that's
ask you this. I'm sorry, I got to close this call out. Now, first of all, thank you for sharing your story. It's a great story. I know that now in Shanghai, I'm not sure about other parts of China, they are starting to treat foreigners differently. Some foreigners are getting denied access to certain places because, Chinese fair things. Once you put the word out that foreigners are bringing back, then all foreigners turn into the bad guy. Luckily, I haven't felt that because I'm in my neighborhood. They know me here, but some foreigners are feeling that. So I hope there's not too much pushback on foreigners here in China. But thanks for sharing your story. I hope a lot of folks can learn something. I think the theme of what I'm getting from this is in every scenario, you took you took the initiative to stay home for that 14 days, right?
Yeah.
You assume that you had something. Stay home. Don't put yourself or anybody else at risk. And I hope other people are seeing that pattern, to stay home and to avoid going outside as much as you can and stay safe.
Yeah, that's the thing that we can do, right, at the
Yeah,
moment.
yeah. So thank you, Him. I appreciate your time.
Thank you too.